Welcome to an all-new episode of Get Lit with Lianna, the podcast. Join me as I sit down with a new guest author in each episode to discuss their books, careers, and everything in between. Today, I'm sitting down with debut romance author Katie Holt to talk about her first book, Not in My Book. Katie and I have been friends on Bookstagram for like 3 years, so I was so excited to learn that she got a traditional book deal and that her first book would be published. This romance book is perfect for the romance girlies, let me tell you. It's a workplace romance, enemies to lovers, only one bed. Insane steam. There's like book inception steam, which I never knew could be a thing, but it's executed so well. It was so fun chatting with Katie about how this all came to be and what she's hoping all of you will take away from this book. But without further ado, my conversation with my friend and author, Katie Holt, starts right now. Welcome, Katie, to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here. Obviously, we've been friends on Booksta for quite some time, but you have made the leap into author territory, which is so friggin' exciting. And I just can't wait to talk to you about your new book, Not in My Book, that by the time this episode is out, book will be out, which is insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's so fun. Fun. We finally get to talk and stuff. I feel like we've been like following each other like ever since at least I started my Bookstagram. I feel like you're one of the first accounts I like followed.
Dying. When was that? How many years ago? Like for sure 2 years ago, if not
I
more.
think so. I think it was 2021 at
Yeah.
least. Yeah.
Crazy.
A
So
million
exciting.
years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so I need to like hear how this entire thing started because obviously you and I've like had very similar taste in romance books and we're both massive romance readers. But when did you decide to take the leap into writing and how did this whole like thing come to be?
Well, I've always wanted to be a writer. Like when I started my Bookstagram too, like I had just started school at NYU for creative writing, and it was always like always going to be a writer. I always wanted to write romance and stuff. So it was like a really natural progression, and it was always just like the dream and kind of like, well, maybe if it happens, it happens. But until then, I'll just like talk about romance books online because it's like that's what I love, you know? So it just kind of was always meant to be for me.
That's so exciting. So at what point in like your Bookstagram journey did this story come to you? Or were you already working on it when you joined Booksta?
I think it was like right around the same time because it was during the pandemic. And so it was like I'm bored out of my mind. I've got literally nothing to do. So it's like I might as well start a Bookstagram. And then I was like, well, I might as well just like start writing a book. Like I literally have nothing to do. Like I'm locked up in here. So
Yeah.
they kind of have had the same journey with each other.
Oh my God. Okay, so then tell me about like how you actually managed to get a book deal, like a traditional book deal with a major publisher. Like a lot of people that I speak to on Bookstagram that have parlayed into writing kind of do it like the self-published route because it's just
Mhm.
so friggin' hard to get a real big
Yeah.
girl book deal. Like tell me everything about that whole process.
Oh my gosh, I have so much respect for self-publishers because I thought about it, but it's so much work. Like it costs so much. It's so much time and energy. And I was just like, I'm in school right now. Like if it happens to me and I might as well just put it out there. Because self-publishing, I was like, well, if it doesn't happen, I can always do that. But it was always like, oh, it's a lot of work. Like I don't know if I could like live up to these people who are like doing an amazing job and stuff.
Right.
But I had written the book and I think it was my sophomore year. I was like, well, might as well. So I reached out to agents and I did the querying process and I think I signed my agent. I think I started querying in January and I signed with my agent by like March or April. So it
Wow.
was like fairly quick for me, which is, you read people who do it for like 10 years and that's what I was like gearing up for. I was like, I'm so young, like it's gonna take me forever. And I think we spent a year revising and then I think we started sending out to publishers in I think like February of 2023 and then I got my deal by like October of that same year. So I just kind of like fell into I feel so lucky. Like my agent just gets my vision. My editor really, really like got the book. So it just felt like it fell into the exact right hands at the exact right time.
Incredible. So when you found your agent, was the book completely finished?
Yeah, that's usually how it goes for like fiction writers at the very least. Because like nonfiction, it can be whatever, but my book had to be like done. And it's very different than what it was back then.
Right. Okay. So tell me about that. Like, what was the editing process like, and how much of it ended up on the cutting room floor?
Yeah, well, like I knew going into it, there were some things where I was like, I don't know by myself how to make this better, but I know it needs to be better.
Okay.
And that was like what really attracted me to my agent because she was like, this is what I think. And I was like, oh, I love that idea. So I would say like a good like 20% of it changed. Like the bones of it were there, but like there were scenes in like they went to Tennessee at one point. Like there was a lot more that like went on in the original manuscript that it was just like too chaotic. There was a wedding, there was like a baby shower, and she was like, there's a lot going on here. And I was like, okay, fair enough. We gotta cut it out.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so for those who have not yet read the book, can you like provide a little synopsis as to what it's about?
I'm so bad at this, but
I know
yes, I
it's the worst
can.
question. I'm so sorry.
No, no, like it's literally like a writer's job is to explain what they write, but it's like torturous. It's about two MFA students at NYU who are creative writers, and they're in a novel writing class, and they can't get along. They write literary fiction and romance, and they're just always bickering with each other in class. And their professors had enough, and they're like, to stay in this class, you actually have to co-write a book that will combine these genres. And as they do, feelings kind of come out on the page, and it all just goes from there.
Okay, so I would be remiss to not mention like the trope usage in this book. It's just, I know people have said this. Well, I feel like I hope you've heard people say this to you, but I've seen it a lot about this book. Is it just feels like a classic romance that like we were all gobbling up in peak pandemic days. Like it just feels so reminiscent of like obviously I know it on your cover it says like The Hating Game and like
Yeah.
all of those books, but it's just like pure epic, perfectly executed romance.
Stop. You're too sweet.
And like, I know that you love those books because we would like talk about them and love them together for so long before like
hmm
this came to be official, I guess.
hmm
But like, what was the writing process like in drawing inspiration from those books that we really love and like selecting the tropes that you were going to use, being such like a romance reader, lover, obsessor, you know?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I love romance. Like romance is kind of my everything all the time ever. And I just wanted this to be a love letter to romance. And I was like, I want to pick out like the tropes that I love like in every book that I read. And like books like The Hating Game and like Beach Read, like those are just like instant classics to me. Like those will be read by like our children, I feel. Like they're just so like that's literature to me. And I was like, I'm inspired by it and I want to do like enemies to lovers. And I do love like the co-writing thing. And so I just wanted it to be like an homage, I guess, to the genre in every sort of the sense.
Yeah. And that's exactly,
Oh, thank
exactly.
you.
You know,
That's so
it was
sweet.
so well done. And like the craziest part about this book, and I'm sure you've heard this, is that you literally essentially wrote two books in one.
Yeah.
Like, are people talking about this? Because I'm sure once the book comes out, people are going to be like, what the frickin' frack did this girl do? Like, how did she do this? But you literally wrote two books in one
Yes.
simultaneously, making them connect in an insane way. Like, tell me about the outlining process and how, like, that idea came to you.
I have to be so honest. I'm like quite gagged by like the amount of people that are like obsessed with that part too, because I loved it, but I was like, this is for me. Like Max and Hunter's story will always be like my thing. Like I don't think that everyone else will love it, but people are like, when is their book coming out? And I'm like, oh my God, like thank you. I didn't
No,
realize
but like,
that.
actually,
Oh my gosh, like I don't even know. Like I'm so shocked by it. I'm like, I'm still processing, guys. Um, that was just like, I think it was halfway through my first draft. I was like, well, duh. Like, if we're talking so much about how feelings are coming out on the page, like, we've got to show it. Like, we've got to like show what they're saying to each other. So it was just, it kind of felt obvious to me at one point where I was like, I just have to like do that. And I tried to like mirror the best I could what was happening to them to show what was happening, like in the second book, I guess.
yeah. What was the outlining process like for this? Like, were you someone that wrote it from like beginning to end, or did you kind of jump around? Like, what was your method to the madness?
I feel like I figured it out like while I was writing it the first time because I was like, I'll just go for it. Like, who cares? And then I was like, "Mm, I care. Like, I gotta figure this out." And so, like, it was halfway through. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, where am I going? So I
Right.
started doing outlines after that. So each draft had like a very, very detailed outline. And that's how I write now because it's just like I have to know like what beat I need to hit when like I have to know when they're gonna kiss and when they're gonna finally have sex and stuff. You know, like it was just like I can't just like guess anymore, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay, can we talk about that like insanely steamy scene that I feel like is gonna go down in like history books? Like I feel like they're gonna teach how to write
Oh my
smut
God,
via
stop.
chapter. No, because
Stop.
first of all, it was so tactfully done. Like it was epic. It was so like spicy and
Oh,
perfect.
please. The Google Doc
But
scene?
no, but what's so effed up about it is that like the smut scene came from them writing smut. It's
Yeah.
literally smut inception. Like I don't even know
Yeah. It
what
was
to
meta
even
smut.
Okay, so how did this idea come to you? And like, what was that like putting pen to paper as someone who like has never really written like smut for public consumption and then kind
Mhm.
of doing it in a way that I've actually never seen done before or read done before?
Oh my gosh. I actually had this idea when I was at Disney World. I was like,
Wait, no, stop. The sexiest place on earth, Disney.
literally, I guess so. I was like, I had already finished like the first draft. And so I was like really like, what am I missing? Like there, like I was just daydreaming about it, and I was literally in line for It's a Small World, and I was like, duh, if it's like a steamy book, they got to do it. Like I'm sorry, they have to have like some sort of like meta quasi phone sex moment. Like it just has to happen. And I was like in line, and I was like, I have to write this down right now. And I was like typing it in my notes app, and my parents were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "This is actually really like personal. Like actually, like we can't be talking right now. Like this is so serious to me." That was like my biggest brain moment I've ever had in my entire life. I was like, this like must happen.
Crazy. And then what was it like when you wrote it and then gave it to your editor to work on? Like have someone critiquing your sex scenes. What is
It,
that experience like as a new writer?
oh my God, it's like semi mortifying and semi exciting because I think that my editor is amazing because she's very much like, where are their legs? Like, what are their limbs doing and stuff? And I'm like, it's supposed to be sexy. Like, why are we thinking about their legs and stuff? And she was like, she loved that scene. Like, even the very first call we ever had, she was like, it was like the first thing she brought up. She was like, we have to talk about this. Like, this is insane. I was like, please, thank you. It was weird, but also like really rewarding because I was like, well, I'm glad somebody else likes it. Like, I'm not just putting pen to paper over something that I think is sexy and it's like, oh, like this is kind of gross, actually, you know?
For sure. So what are you feeling like now that the book will be out in the world and like everyone could read your smut? Like as a bookstagrammer, is it super like, do you feel like it's like, okay, this is like a little bit like exhibitionisty of me? Like how are you feeling about it? Like, because I know that so many authors that I speak to who write
Hmm.
romance and write smut scenes always bring up exactly what you just talked about like the choreography and like
Yeah.
it down, like making sure pieces and parts are aligned and whatever. But everyone always, for their first romance book, especially, is always like, he, like, I don't want my mom to read this. Like,
Oh
I
my
don't
gosh.
want my grandma to read this. Like, I don't want my brother to see this, Like, how are
Yeah.
you feeling someone who has consumed so much romance
Yeah.
and like having your own POV, what came from your brain be on the page forever?
Right.
Like,
I
what's
actually like went to this talk with Tessa Bailey, and somebody had asked her this exact question. They were like, "Does your dad read your books and all this stuff?" And she was like, I had to come to a point in my life where I realized like before I'm a daughter, before I'm a mother, a sister, a friend, I'm just a woman. And there's nothing wrong with the woman just enjoying sex and nothing wrong with the woman like enjoying reading it and writing it. And it just changed like my whole perception because before that I would have been like, nobody's allowed to read it that knows me. Absolutely not. And so, like, when I got the book deal, like, I told my parents, I was like, this is not necessarily written for your eyes. Like, I never wrote this thinking that you guys were going to read it.
yeah.
Read at your own risk. Like, read it if you want to. I don't care if you read it. My boyfriend's mom, though, I was like, you are not allowed to read it. Actually, I was like, I like
The
told him, I was
line
like,
is drawn.
that is a line for me. I was like, my parents, I was like, that's your choice. Like, you have to sit with God and do that, whatever. But like, my boyfriend's mom, I was like, that one I would actually like to control a little bit.
I'm dying.
Um,
So, like, who of your family has read it yet? Like, who's seen it? Who's the whole book, not just
yeah.
that scene, just like in general, who have you shared? Who were like your early readers?
My my sister read I think like half of the very first draft and then I got shy and I was like, actually you can't read it anymore. But she is like reading the final one right now and she feels really weird about it. She's like, it's so sexy, but it's weird because you're my little sister. And I'm like, I don't want like it's just odd.
I
My
died.
dad has read it and I told him, I was like, you don't want to, like, read at your own risk. And he was like, I did skip chapters. He was like, I thought I'm an adult man, like I can do what I want. Then he was like, I skipped a lot of chapters.
I'm dying.
My two aunts read it and they were like, we read every word. And I was like, period. Like I was like glad, like I hope you enjoyed it. And I know my mom and my grandfather are right in the middle of reading it, which is kind of like a oof, like good luck when you get to a certain part, you know?
It's really, really, really sweet though. Is everyone just like freaking out that you're actually doing this? I'm like,
Yeah.
it's
My
insane, Katie. I'm like so friggin' proud of you.
oh,
It's
thank
insane.
you. It's
The
really
day that you
sweet.
posted that you got your book deal on Instagram, I was like, wait a second, is this like my friend Katie? Like I literally was read in romance. Is this actually her? I'm like, is she reposting someone else? Because like I didn't realize like Katie Holt, like I didn't know. I just literally see you as reading romance. And I know your name's,
Right.
but like I don't ever consider people's last names on my Bookstagram
Oh my
feed
gosh, me
ever.
either. Hmm.
I was like, wait, is this her? And then I was like, holy fuck, it's her. And I was losing my mind. And I literally said to my husband, like,
Yeah.
know my friend Katie from New York, from like when you were doing the Broadway play? He's like, yes. I'm like, no, 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 she literally wrote a book.
That's too sweet. You're the
No,
sweetest.
it's so exciting and amazing. I'm like,
Thank you.
I know that everyone, like just from the early chatter, is loving it, but I know that like all the romance readers out there, once they get their hands on this book, it feels so reminiscent of like classic, epic, good quality
You're
romance,
so
like
sweet.
the best tropes. I'm like, you just executed it so friggin'
Oh, my ego's gonna get like huge. Thank you so
well.
much. That's really so sweet.
I mean every single word. So like looking back now at the writing experience, like what was your like most shit, this is fucking hard. I don't know if I can do it moment. Like when did you hit like a kind of like maybe I should just keep my this like for myself and I should just stick to reading romance books and talking about the books that are already published that I like online. Like maybe this
Yeah.
is for me.
Oh my gosh. It was actually when I got revisions from my agent because I was like, there's a lot of pressure here. Because I was like, before I would always revise and I was like, well, I know what I want. Like, I know what the outcome I'm looking for is. And it was when my agent sent me revisions and they were all great. Like, we had talked about them before. Like, there was nothing wrong with them, but I was like, damn, like, I'm on deadline. Like, I'm writing for someone else to read it. And it was just like, oh, I've never done this before. And it was like suddenly super scary that I was like, how do I back out of a deal? Like, how do I like not do this anymore? And then I was like, okay. Maybe pull up the big girl pants and like actually do it.
Oh my God. And was there anything that like you lost the battle on, like something you wanted to really include, but then you, for
Hmm.
whatever reason, couldn't include it? Like either because it just didn't
Yeah.
work with the story or there was a critique you got that made you think differently about something. Like, is there anything that you were like a real champion for that then you realized better off without?
I think it was actually the name of the book because I really like we went through a lot of names and I like initially really, really wanted the name that I had of the draft to like stay the name, but we didn't even pitch it to like editors with that name because it just didn't work, I think, and I don't think it was
Can
as
you share the
catchy.
name?
It was in between the lines. And I like loved it. I loved that name so bad. And I fought tooth and nail, but then my agent was like, I think we should change it. And then we changed it to Love at First Write, but like write with WRITE.
Yeah,
And then we went through like another round of changes, and then we ended up with Not My Book, which I do love now. But at the time, I was like, no, like this is my integrity. Like I want this name so bad. But I do love Not in My Book because my sister and I love to be like, not in my book. We say it about like everything like around the house. We're like, not in my book ever. Like we just love saying it. So I
I
do
love
love it
that.
now.
I love it. And Kate, the cover art is stunning.
Oh, I felt so lucky. I love it's Ink and Laurel who did the art, and they did like BK Borison's like the original for like the Love Light Farms. Oh, I was so, so grateful when they were able to do the art for this. Like it's amazing.
Like, how involved are you as an author in that? Or is it kind of like kind of out of your hands in the publishing house
I
side?
was really involved, surprisingly. Like I
Oh my
was
God, okay.
shocked. Yeah, because I've talked to other people who've been like, I didn't get a say. And I kind of like prepared myself, especially after like the battle with the title where I was like, it's not my thing. Like, I guess so, like whatever. And so I was like, well, I guess I have to trust their judgment because I did end up loving the title.
Yeah.
But then they would show me sketches. Like they asked if I had any artists that I wanted, and I was like, I love Ink and Laura, like if it's possible. And they're like, yeah, we'll figure it out. And then they sent me different sketches, and I got to pick out like whatever sketches I liked the best. And like we changed Aiden's peacoat color like a couple times and stuff. Like they were really, really sweet about letting me have my say in that.
I love it. It's such a stat. Like, I can't wait to get my hands on a physical copy.
Oh, you're so sweet.
So pretty. Also, I need to mention that I was freaking the fuck out when I saw in your acknowledgments at the end of the book that you gave me a shout out.
Duh.
No, but Katie, I was literally reading it and I like, was reading, I obviously, as everyone knows, I read this book in quite literally one sitting. Like I just for 4.5 hours, 5 hours, like I did not put it down. But I flipped over, I was lying in my bed, I was reading it, like finishing it like late before going to sleep. And I turned over to my husband and I was like, it says like thank you to Lianna. And he was like, yeah, it's you. And I was like, no chance, there has to be another Lianna. He's like, what?
Mm-mm.
Obviously you. So then I go on your Instagram and I'm like,
You're just
who else does Katie follow with my name? And then no one comes up. And then
you're
I was
so
like,
funny.
I was like, how do I ask? Like, and then he was
It
like,
was 100%
I
you.
was dying. I was so touched and so excited. And
Of
then like I
course.
can't wait now to get my hands on a physical copy and like see it in the print. But it like means so much. And I know that you know as like a romance reader, like to be acknowledged by like your favorite authors and get that like reassurance, like you know how much people like
Mhm.
value your reading, your writing and stuff. And like it's so cute that like you and I are friends and like now I'm also a fan. Like I love that this is
That's so
related
sweet.
to this. And I'm just like wishing you literally nothing but the
Mm.
best in the future because I know like the sky's truly like the limit for you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Of course I had to thank you. You've been there for me like from the start. Like I really do like appreciate like your friendship and support.
No, beyond words. And I'm so proud of you. And I can't wait for like everything you have coming up next. So could we talk about book two?
Yeah, we can.
So
Yeah.
this was a two book deal, right?
No, so I think my publisher typically does one book deal. So they bought the second book like literally like a month ago. Yeah.
Okay, no, wait, that is 5 million times more
I
impressive.
know. Oh, thank you. That's so
You
sweet.
need to lead with that. Okay, so how does that work? Is it based on like pre-sales? Like, does that help in any sense? Or is it just like after seeing how you've worked together, they wanted to offer you another book deal? Like, how does it work?
I think part of it was the pre-orders, but I've sold my book in a couple, I think it's 11 territories now. And so
Wow.
like we sold out the advance. Like my advance has been sold through like already. So they were like we would be dumb if like all these like other like countries are taking it and all stuff. And like the reviews have been great and stuff and the pre-order numbers are strong. So I think it was just like yeah, like of course. And I was just like, "Oh my God, like thank you so much." Like I was kind of like gagged if I have to be honest. I was like, "I only thought I'd get to do this once." Like I'm so immensely grateful for it.
Crazy. So, like, how far along in book two were you when they made you this offer? Like, was it, I know you've been working on it, but
Yeah. It was like just an idea. So like I had my agent and I had been working on a book for about like a year actually, and I had just finished it. And I was like, this is so terrible. Like I emailed her like in the middle of the night and I was like, this is so bad. Like the book I just finished is horrible. And she's like, I'm sure it's not. And I was like, no, it's bad. Like I don't want to do it. Like I think it needs to just sit on the shelf for like a couple of years and I can come back to it later. And she was like, well, do you want to pivot? Like, because we have like an option. So whatever book that I wrote next, like they would get the option on. She's like, do you want to pivot, like, and option them else something else? And I was like, yeah, I really, really do. So we kind of just brainstormed for a while, and I like had this idea, and I just pitched it out. And I think I
wow,
wrote like two chapters, and then I sent it to them, and then they bought it from that.
insane.
Yeah, it was
How far are
crazy.
you now in that process?
I think I'm 20,000 words. I had to take a little bit of a break because like the book's coming out like next week, and I was like, I gotta focus on not my book, like my girl, my firstborn, before I
Yeah,
go to like my second chapter, of course.
insane. So, are you doing like a book tour for this? Like, where are you going? What are you doing? Who are you talking to? Tell me everything.
I'm doing a little mini one. I have an event in New York at the Strand with Chloe Gong. And
Insane.
then Knoxville, I have like my hometown at Union Ave Books. I'll be meeting with Claire Gilmore. And then in DC at Politics and Prose. Oh my gosh, I do not know how to pronounce her last name. Her name is Nora, and her book is Pickup. I
Oh,
think
okay.
I have the book right here. Yeah, it's called Pickup. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, and I just don't want to butcher it, but it's Nora D something.
Insane. Are you excited, nervous, like to meet readers in the wild and have people face to face tell you how much they're obsessed with you?
Oh my gosh, I'm just so nervous because the New York one, like my family's coming up for it because they're so sweet. And a lot of people from my job are coming. And then a lot of my like friends from school and then like my friends from just like New York and stuff are coming. So I'm like, I think that one's gonna be like
So nice.
mostly people I know and like people I don't know. My
Yeah.
Knoxville one will literally be a high school reunion. Like most of the people I went to high school with are like, I'm coming, I'll be there. Like a lot of my old teachers were, and I'm like, wow, this will be quite strange. I'm excited though. And DC will be like people I have no idea and stuff.
Insane.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
hey,
crazy. It's exciting though.
it's so exciting. So before I let you go, I just want to give you the floor to call on to potential readers there out there and let them know like what you're hoping they'll take away from this book. Like I know I've already said how I feel. It's just like the most classic, epic, feel good, happy romance. But like, what are you hoping a prospective reader out there that may be listening to this episode takes away from this and like makes them want to go grab the book?
Well, first off, I hope if there are any like Peruvian listeners out there, like I really hope that you read this and it resonates with you because I yearned for like a book or a movie or anything with like Peruvian representation when I was younger. So I really, really hope that like resonates. But I also think if you like smutty things and if you like enemies to lovers and you like men who are just like absolute simps for their girl, like I think this is for you. And I think if you like peacoats, because that is like a fetish in this book, not like an actual fetish, but it borderline.
I couldn't agree more. And if you love Taylor Swift, you would love Katie,
Yeah.
just as
Oh,
a
please.
sidebar. And the book, because
Of course.
like one and the same.
Exactly. Hopefully other people read it like that.
Oh my God, Kate. Well, this was so fun.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you
you so
so
much for
much.
having me.
I cannot wait for like everything to come down the pipeline. And obviously, when book two comes out, you will be back. we will do
Yeah,
this again.
thank you. I cannot
But
wait.
I can't wait. I'm hoping to be in New York in the spring. So obviously we'll meet up and we'll do something
Yeah,
in person then. But
100%.
thank you so much for taking the time to chat and congratulations. And I'm so excited and I'm so proud.
Hey, thank you so much for chatting with me. This was so fun.